let's get to this episode today, man. Basically, we're talking about series we think deserve like a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood kind of treatment. So, or Hunter x Hunter kind of treatment when they do the anime again with newer animation, better storyline, I guess. So that's the premise of this episode. Before we get into that, I want you guys to tell me one anime you think was like perfectly adapted. That you think some studios should like follow the example of this anime and the studio who did it. So like one anime you thought, okay, reading the manga and watching it, this was great. This was a great adaptation. Let's go with Joel first.
Well, I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of process kind of going into this. I was kind of thinking along the lines of with a reboot or recreation, is the anime trying to capture the feel or the vibe, or are they trying to capture the depth of story, or are they just doing a total remake but just improving their aesthetics? And for me, an anime that definitely went beyond the Call of Duty, went ham. In regards to reboot was Hellsing, Hellsing Ultimate being the reboot or remake. And although the pacing was much better in the first creation by Kyoto, I think it's Hirano, something like that. Probably butchered his name, but on God, Hellsing Ultimate, what it did to bring the visuals to life, because the manga is so impressive, and the first Hellsing did not do the manga like its full justice in regards to just the violence, the gore, the action. Hellsing Ultimate just brought it all to life, and it kind of captured what the manga produced, which is so hard to do. Like we all know how hard it is for just to bring a story to life as it's pictured and as like you imagined, and when you see it in the manga relayed. So yeah, shout out to Hellsing, one of my most enjoyable reads and watch throughs that I had to even see and go back to the original. But yeah.
Interesting. What about you, Daniel?
I would say Fruits Baskets, the second anime, the 2019, because they had the first anime, which was an alright adaptation, but had a few things which were inconsistent with the manga. What I'd say which was the advantage of this second adaptation is the way that they were bold in the fact they were able to restructure the story to help things and story events flow better, taking events and shifting them earlier or later, which for me as an anime watcher, I felt like that helped to make that first experience so special, especially when I went back to read the manga, where I see the events, they're consistent with what's happened in the manga, but I felt like how it was done in the anime, I actually preferred it than what was done in the manga. So I think with Fruits Baskets, throughout all the 3 seasons, they went out of their way to heighten what was done in the manga and really enhance the source material.
I love the difference between what we kind of saw out in terms of what we liked or we thought was perfection. I went fully on the visuals. I was like, yes, it looked good. And you were like the structure, everything that kind of improved the whole general layout or production of the anime that made it a better reboot. That's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it's a bit of different perspectives, because I haven't seen Hellsing, so I'm not too sure about the differences in the. I can only go of what you've told me, but it's quite. That's what makes doing these so interesting, because we all have different perspectives, so we're always going to approach things differently.
Yeah,
100.
Yeah, my pick is a bit wild. Mine is Dororo.
Okay.
That's simply because the first anime. Because I was, when I searched up to watch it first, that's what I was watching. I was like, what am I watching? This is not the same thing. What is going on? This is not the hyped, clean cut animation. This seems like it came out before my dad was born.
Oh,
So, and it wasn't, but it took me so long to find it as well. So it's like, this is not the same thing. Obviously something went wrong. Then I watched the knew Dororo, was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. That one was it's just a remake. I think I enjoyed it more because I think it just gave the story like a second chance to people to because obviously anime is a different kind of media for people to intake compared to the manga. Not many people watch read the manga as they watch anime. So giving people to a second chance, or giving the story a second chance for people to truly enjoy it. I know with updated animation and a better, like obviously the visual arts. I think that was just good. I think so many animes that got animated long ago, they deserve like a second chance. Like, no, I'm not saying like the story was bad or it was just badly animated. I just think it was just outdated when it comes to the animations basically, and giving them a second chance. And Juro just is a very good example of that, personally.
Yeah, that's a good point because
Yeah.
you have that with JoJo where you had the OVA in like 19 something, it might be 98, which kind of just did the part 3 fight, and now
Yeah.
today you've got all 6 parts being adapted in the modernish format, and that's something that benefited from people going back and actually taking the time to do the story from part 1 all the way up to part 6 now.
Yeah, I think so, because there's so many, like, researching for this pod, there's so many shows. It's like, wow, this story is so good. Like, if you read the manga, this is so good, but most people would never find out about it because the anime, or people like me who like don't like old animation in quotes. So good examples like Trigun. I know there's a new Trigun coming out. I haven't watched it yet because I haven't finished the first Trigun yet. And the first Trigun was, even though it's old animation, but it's still enjoyable. But to see that Trigun's kind of getting like a second chance, people are talking about it again, because before this anime came out, not many people were talking about Trigun. Trigun was just like one of the, I think, shows like Cowboy Bebop was getting more shine than it. But the stories, in my opinion, for what I've watched so far, is equally as good. But I think this new, even though it's like CGI, gives it a second chance, kind of, for people to like get involved in the story again. And even if they don't like the anime, I guess they can pick up the manga and say, okay, let me actually read what the story is about. So I think most old animes get like, they deserve like a FMAB treatment of like just reanimating it, and I think it's gonna get a lot of traction to what the story is. But yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I don't know if it's just a hater in me, but I'm like, bro, old anime, just be humble and just be an old anime. You don't need a reboot, even though we'd love it. But sometimes just look ugly. Like, be your authentic, true self. You don't need a rehash, because I think there's something kind of poetic of just seeing something in its raw form and its limitation in regards to like the time period and the skill set or the technology that was available to them. I like that. I like watching them be like, okay, the inquisitive in me, like the person who kind of seeks information, like, oh, this is why it's like this is why it had to be shot like this. But it kind of gives the media, this form of media, character, and I think sometimes that character is lost, you know what I mean, when you just reboot something, even though there is so much value in rebooting and recreating a show with everything that we are now able to do and have access to. But sometimes there's character in something that is just not perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, actually. I never really thought of that, because it just came to my head, like, there's some shows who deserve to like stay untouched when it comes to like reanimating them, remaking them. The shows like Dragon Ball, I think, I know I've been catching up with it slowly, very, very slowly, but I don't think I want to see like a reanimation of like the original Dragon Balls, because I think that's just like a classic. It's a kind of like untouchable. But at the same time, some other series, like for example, Naruto, who like is destroyed with filler, I think might do with like a reanimation where like they don't touch the filler, it's just like a straight animation of it. So I think some, like what you said, is a good point. Like some just need to be like left alone to show like the skills of, or the beauty of what the old times had in terms of animation. And sometimes, especially with Trigun as well, I've been watching it. The animation for back in the days is really good. It still does things better than some now. So I think some I know even though it looks prettier, I think some just need to be left alone. That's a very good point. I never really thought about it when it comes to this discussion.
Yeah, and I just wanted to one thing to add, because I've heard discussions where people actually prefer the styles that was done in the 1980s, 1990s to compared to the anime that's being produced today. So kind of shows that, because they were saying that there's not really much difference in terms of the quality of the animation that was being done back then. And since last year I actually watched Yu Yu Hakusho for the first time. I read it and then I watched the anime, and that's one of those shows that I would say, in terms of the quality of animation, it stands up to what's been put out today. I'd say it was really high quality. You know, it had its charm. You know, the 90s, filter to it, and I felt even though it was being done in that time, like it's something that I didn't even feel the age. You know, sometimes you watch something that was made a couple years ago, and you feel like, yeah, the technology is really limiting the I guess the potential this show could have. But I felt with Yu Yu Hakusho, it was that's something that you'd have to watch the anime over the manga, because I've read both, and the anime was definitely an English dub too. Anime was a great experience. Yusuke, all the characters were really enjoyable. The fights, character interactions, and that was in the 90s as well. So I think Raguel made a good point about sometimes things might not need a reboot, just to let them stay like they are.
Yeah, I agree. Because I can imagine like classic shows which people enjoy, like for example, Cowboy Bebop. You get like a reanimation of it. That's like, I think it's almost insulting because it's so good. There's nothing wrong with it.
I love you.